Okay, fellas. I know you're waiting on the edge of your seats. We've been talking a little bit about bees. I consider bees and beekeeping part of bushcraft. You know, it is something to do with nature, and it is a craft in itself because there's a lot of little things you got to learn about beekeeping, you know. And it ain't just turning a key and putting a jar of honey under a tap. Okay, I've seen that hive, that they call it the flow hive, which is they pump that thing up so much to make it look like, and people are sitting around in t-shirts and flip-flops and yay honey, you know. They just make it look like it's turnkey. That ain't beekeeping, folks. Beekeeping isn't the flow hive. Now it's pretty interesting, you know, I know that there are frames in there, they just kind of like, they just shift it with that key, and then the honey just starts flowing out of there. And then when you get done robbing the hive of the honey and turn the key back, and then all the bees are like, crap, where'd all my honey go? You know, then they got to go out and get more nectar and then start all over. So, which is kind of what we're doing anyway with the regular hive, right? But it's just a bit too easy, I think, and it doesn't really. They pump it up like you don't have to like do any inspections or do anything at all but turn a key, you know, which I think is wrong. And they make it look too easy, which I think is morally wrong, because there is quite a bit to beekeeping. Even if you take a natural approach, you do still have to know some things, and you have to be able to handle certain situation with bees, you know, especially if you're going with the fiercer bees. Okay, so we left off talking about the African bee in Africa. I'm not talking about Africanized bees. I'm talking about African bees. They're a very dark bee. And in the 1950s, Brazil decided that they were going to bring bees from Africa. They were going to bring queens and so forth from Africa to Brazil. It'd study them. It'd see if they couldn't get going on a bee program. And it was in its infancy and everything back then. Now, this magazine from the 1980s, okay, says here, they like Africanized bees in Brazil, okay? Now, there's a difference between Africanized bees and African bees. The African bees were the pure African bees from Africa. And the Africanized bees were basically African bees that mated with European bees, and they didn't get a whole lot less aggressive. They did get less aggressive. They are less aggressive. Africanized bees are less aggressive than African bees. Let me tell you something. If you think that Africanized bees in the United States and in Central and South America, if you think that Africanized bees are dangerous, all bees are dangerous, okay? But if you think that Africanized bees are dangerous or they're too aggressive, you ain't seen nothing. You go to Africa and you look at the bees over there. They are in their bee suits and they are covered. There are so many bees that they could barely even see through the veil. They are trying to attack them. They're all over the veil. Alright? I mean, they are aggressive. Super, super aggressive. I mean, beyond belief. They have to actually, you know, move the bees to see to work. Okay? So that's aggressive. I mean, that is aggressive. Okay? Now, they don't have any issues with mites there. Let me tell you, they don't. Because they might, if a mite got anywhere near that beehive, that colony, it wouldn't last 2 seconds. They'd be all over it. I mean, and Africanized bees are a little bit less aggressive. I mean, they're aggressive, right? But it's what you want. You want aggressive bees. Something flying there. All right, you want aggressive bees because then they go after stuff that's trying to infiltrate the colony and do harm. You want aggressive bees. If you have a bee that's too docile, like the Italian honeybee and others, they'll just ignore predators. And then you have colony collapse and all that other nonsense, right? This stuff can totally be avoided by having a more aggressive bee. The genetics more aggressive, and you can avoid mite situations and all that stuff because they deal with it. They do. This is the reason why Africanized bees are very much loved in Central and South America. There has been study after study after study by Brazilians and Americans. There have been Americans with PhDs go down there and work with the Brazilians on these bees, and they are like, this is the way, you know. There's something to this, you know. And I mean, it doesn't. It's, to me, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, okay. To me, it is not rocket science. I'm gonna give you some analogies here, and then I'm gonna talk about the bees, and I'm gonna give you some analogies. Okay. In mankind, we have warfare. Sometimes we have armies that are a little bit lackadaisical. They're not real hardcore trained. And then we have other armies that are very hardcore trained. They live to train to kill. That's their army is a killing machine, and they know it. And that's what they know what their job is, and that's what they train for, and that's all they do. And then you have an army that is made up of guys that, you know, maybe they go to train 2 weeks a year, and they haven't even been in war, or they haven't hardly been in war or whatnot. You know, they're not the same. So you got, and they're kind of like the Italian honeybee, right? And then the other guys are kind of like the African bee or the Africanized bee, right? This is what we're talking about here. If those two armies met on the battlefield, we automatically know who's going to die. That's right. We automatically know. I don't even have to tell you. The hardcore guys are going to win. And the hardcore bees are going to win. Okay? Hardcore bees are going to win. So, let me tell you something about guard bees. Okay? Guard bees, when the bee evolves, and its life is like 6 weeks, okay? From the time it's an egg to the time it expires, it's about 6 weeks. And every few days, that bee changes position, gets a new job, okay? Until it becomes a forager, and then those are the guys that go out, collect the nectar and pollen, and come back, boom, boom, mission after mission until their wings fall off, basically, all right? But before that, they have guard bees that hang out at the entrance, and they're checking IDs. Anybody that comes in the hive, you got to pass the guard bees to get in, right? Now, this is just normal stuff for your Italian honeybee. They're just kind of hanging out. Hey guys, yeah, come on in, you know, and Sometimes they might get a predator come. Sometimes the predator will just go right through and they won't get stopped. And there's only so many guard bees. But with the Italian honeybee, there's only so many guard bees, and then the rest have other jobs, and they don't have any more guard bees. That's all they got. Okay? So they are at a disadvantage. Now you look at an Africanized, like the ones that came out of Brazil, bee, they recruit. That's right. They recruit, baby. You got guard bees at the front of the hive, the entrance, and there's a threat. If they don't think that they got enough numbers, they say, you. You're with us. You're guard bees now. Boom, and they attack. That's how they take care of business. Okay? This is the reason why mites and hive beetles and all that nonsense are mostly a non-issue with those types of hives. This is also the reason why you have to be fully suited up when you're dealing with Africanized bees. I'm not talking about African bees. I'm talking about Africanized bees. So they're just a step, just a slight step down with aggressiveness than the African bees, right? But the advantages of having an Africanized bee are several. One, they don't have all the issues with mites and that sort of thing that Italian honeybees do. They don't have those issues because they take care of business. And another thing is they have an incredible amount of honey that they produce. So Italian honeybees are, of the docile bees, the Italian honeybees are probably the best producers. And that's why so many people love them, because two things. They love them because they're docile and because they produce a lot of honey. But one thing that there is an issue with, another issue with Italian honeybees, is that after winter, they will practically eat all of their food. And if you don't get to them fast enough, or the season doesn't change quick enough to where they can start replenishing their stores, they'll starve to death, because they're greedy eaters. In the springtime, when you start coming out of winter and into spring, Italian bees can eat up all their stores. Okay, so that's one thing you got to think about with them too. But Africanized bees, they produce a boatload of honey, and they have less medical problems, okay? But you do have to suit up, and you do have to keep them away from most people and so on, because they're aggressive, okay? They're 7 times on average more aggressive than a regular honeybee. And they'll chase you. They'll chase you, a good ways. They'll attack a good ways off. So you got to keep those hives away. You can't have a backyard bee set up with Africanized honeybees. Okay, there we go again. All right. Well, and African bees and Africanized, African bees and Africanized bees, okay, are illegal in the States. Okay, the thumb is pressing down again. So the Asian bee is illegal, African bee is illegal, and these are all great bees. Africanized bee, illegal, right? Those are supposedly all illegal, right? But if you get some Africanized honeybees, I would keep them, and if you got a place to keep them, definitely I would go with that. And there's one other honeybee which I'm not going to tell you right now. I'm going to let you think about it. We'll talk about it in another video. See you later.